Mm, All right, all right. So it looks like I am live. Hello, hello, everybody. Let me just make sure you guys can see this. How are we doing, Network for the Kingdom? I just want to, okay, you guys should be good, should be able to see. Want to make sure I give you guys just a minute or so to start to filter in here. We are live for our biblical basics for beginners in business. I'm super excited for today. I hope that you're all excited. I just want to give a quick welcome to our new members. We have lots of new folks who are here with us. So if this is your first time with us, let us know in the chat. We'll give you a nice welcome. Just for those of you who don't know me, my name is Daniela. I'm one of the founders here with my husband of Network for the Kingdom. We hold lots of different events to help entrepreneurs really take off in their journey. And one of the things that we focus on is trying to help folks, really to go further when it comes to their business. We are founded on biblical principles, and we believe that when you apply these principles, not just to your life, but to your business, that's when you're going to see the most growth, and that God could really bless your business and bless the things that and to receive the things that he has for you. So I want to make sure that you guys all have access to this. Okay, so that's posted in the chat. Great. All right. So when we first started this in the beginning of the year, January, we really focused on stewardship. If you missed any of that, you can go to the guides tab and you can see the replays of all of that. But this month, we're going to talk about authority. Okay. And for those of you, again, if it's your first time, we do this every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. So mark it on your calendars and be ready for it. Okay. So this week, this month, the month of February, we're going to talk about authority. And God has been really speaking to me a lot about this. This is a really interesting topic. And what is authority? Okay. And why is authority important? When we think of authority, authority is really the power or right when we think about to give orders, to make decisions, and to enforce obedience. And there are some pretty hefty words that are here. I think about these words like obedience, right? That's even a trigger word for some people. It's like, oh, okay, we're talking about I have to obey, right? And then the little bit of rebellion comes out. No, So when you think about authority, there are different types of authority. We're not going to get into that today, but there are different types of authority, and there's a different way that biblically we can look at authority versus the way that the world really looks at authority. So when we think about authority, we need to think about godly authority. Okay. This is something that you're going to encounter, especially as those who, own businesses. You're going to have probably a team under you at some point. I'm declaring that for all of you, especially for those of you, even if you're just starting out and you don't have a team yet. I'm declaring that you're going to have that. You're going to have all of those. You're going to have people essentially under you that are working in your business, that are being sent out to help with your promotions, whatever it is that, in this season that you're having set up. So you're going to have that in some way. But there are other ways that we can see godly authority. So Romans 13:1 says that there is no authority, right? But that which is given from God. And so there's different ways we see this in government, the governmental structures that are in place. Parents, for example, parents are an example of the first type of authority that children see, right? And so we are to reflect a godly authority. And then there's different forms of leadership. And leadership has different levels. You might be leading just a small team. You might lead, a team of 100 people. You might have, be the CEO, right? You might just be a manager, a supervisor. So there's different levels of leadership as well in different forms. You have church leadership, you have business leadership. There's different forms and types of leadership. But when we think about that, okay, no matter what form of authority that you're going to plug into, there's still the same authority source, and that is God. God is the ultimate authority. And so if you've been placed in a position of authority, we need to understand how to do that and handle that level of authority with a godly perspective, because this is where maybe like rebellion comes in or these things because people have wounds towards authority figures. When you have people who rebel, for example, children who rebel, there's some kind of wound towards an authority, and that can be projected in different ways, right? It might be projected towards a boss, it might be towards parents, it might be towards caretakers, or even, even when we think about the governmental structures that are there. And I'm not going to get into too much of that, but think about, your response or your reaction to certain authorities. So I'll tell you just a quick story. I had a really big wound when it came to authority. And when I was working for a certain boss, there was just certain characteristics, there were things that she did, and it really bugged me really badly. I didn't feel like I was really seen in the position that I was in. It was a lot of times, there's a lot of judgment, a lot of criticism. And when I experienced that and I felt that, it made me not really want to work for the organization anymore. I kind of started to feel, like I wasn't really seen. Um, and then I was thinking about, why did that bother me so badly, right? Like, here's my boss. Yes, she's in charge of certain things. Of course, I want her to be proud. I want to, I want those things. But then I was thinking, okay, I feel like there's a connection here to maybe a parent wound that I had, or maybe the way that I was seeing God. So we have to think about our godly, the authorities that have been in our life, how we feel towards those authorities and our responses to them. Because, God doesn't say it's okay to be rebellious, right? We're not to be rebellious. However, that doesn't mean that there's a right to abuse those who are under that authority. So what I want you to take away from this really today as we get into this is thinking about, how am I, when it comes to being subject to some form of authority, and then how is that coming through in my business? How is that coming through to the people that I've been placed to lead? So I want you to think about that. So we have the world system of authority, which I think a good representation is this pyramid I have here. And this is pretty much how it goes. So on the bottom in the world system are the workers, okay? Those who are just, your regular hired employees. And they really have little to no authority unless you've given them, you have a team, let's say, and there's a team leader. But the amount of authority is really small to almost nothing, okay? And this is why you'll see in a lot of organizations that, you'll have employees, like, don't get mad at the employee at the drive-through, because they're probably really underpaid and they're just like, man, I'm just here and I'm showing up because I need to make money. But they don't feel like they have a lot of influence in any way. Okay. And authority is really about influence. And we'll talk about that later on. There's a difference between power and authority. They're not the same thing. They do go hand in hand, but they're not the same thing. They're often confused, but they really have little to none, okay? And they feel powerless a lot of times. A lot of workers and employees really feel powerless in their position. A lot of times they'll work just to please their boss because they're afraid, that they're going to be let go, right? Oh, if I make a mistake or I do the wrong thing. And that just creates a system of fear, okay, which is not of God. It's not godly authority. That's not good. And you don't want that. You don't want the people working under you to be afraid of you, okay? A lot of this is established in trust. But then above that, you have maybe your managers. Okay, so these are maybe supervisors, managers, and they have some authority. Their authority is mostly with the workers, right? So a lot of this stuff will trickle down from the top down to the bottom, where you have the workers there at the bottom. So if you have this system in place, where the higher you go up the system, the more authority is granted, right? And then the more power essentially in the organization. That's what the general world system has. Above that, you might have your general or regional managers, right? This is like your middle management, middle levels of authority. They still have somebody above them, but that they have like a pretty decent amount of people that are essentially, I'm going to say beneath them, because that's how it goes, right? In the world system. So under them. And then you have like your vice president. This person might have more authority, but doesn't have all the authority, is able to make a lot of decisions, right? Has the ability to do that. And then above that, you have your CEO, which has all the authority, okay? So nothing happens underneath without that CEO's approval. Now, of course, there's going to be some responsibilities and authority that is delegated out. However, in the long run, what you really see is that the higher up you go, the fewer amount of hands that the authority lies and rests in. Okay. So the fewer people are engaging and having the ability to have authority. And therefore, what you have is a structure of powerlessness. A lot of the times, the lower on the pyramid you are, the less powerful you probably feel. Okay. And so this is not God's system, although this is the way that the world often functions. Okay, so I want you to think about that and have that in mind, because I'm sure that everybody here who's watching right now, and if this is you and you agree, say me, have worked for a company, you've worked for an organization, you've worked somewhere where maybe you've had some or had no authority and you felt powerless to that. Okay, if you showed up late or something happened or somebody, passed away, maybe there's a little fear. Oh my gosh, I have to ask I have to ask off, I don't know, maybe if I'm taking off too much, I'm going to get fired, right? So there's a lot of fear responses that are involved in this kind of system. Okay. But when we think about God's system, everything, what I love about Jesus is that he flips everything on its head, right? He totally flips everything upside down. So in God's system, it's really rooted in service. So God, right? We think about Jesus having all power, all authority, everything in all of heaven, all of earth, came down to be at the level of a servant so that that authority could be given out to the hands of many, not where we have in this system where the workers, right, have very little and the authority and the power goes, the higher up you go, the more authority, consolidated power, everything's at the top in few hands. But in this system of God's system, you have more authority in the hands of many, right? That was given by the one who came down to serve, who came down to bring himself at the lowest point. So in this system, what it really should be is starting at the bottom, you have those who are in the world system at the top, and they should be the servant to all. So how this really should look is your CEO should be the one who is serving everybody and essentially working for all the people on their team. It's the opposite way. General managers, right? They serve the top three. So a general or regional manager or a vice president, for example, I'm sorry, that blue one should say vice president, should really be about serving. How do I serve my regional managers, my general managers, my team leads, and then ultimately the workers, right? Because the workers are the ones that are going to go out and serve the clients or serve, the customers. And then when you get to that middle tier, it's the same thing. They serve the top two. So it really shouldn't be about the workers serving and working for the managers, working for the general managers, working for the VP, working for the CEO. It really should be the other way around. Your management, those who have the most authority, the highest levels of authority, should really be the ones that are serving those who are in a broader sense, right? The multitudes. Okay. Then you have your workers. When your workers feel heard, they feel seen, right? They feel like they have some sense of power in the company or the organization. They're going to work better for you because they understand that you're working for them. Okay. You're not going to engage in the power struggle because then they're going to go out and they're going to serve the clients and the customers and they're going to serve them well. So this is what we have to flip when we think of the authority level, when we think of God's system of service. Okay, because there's a big difference between power and authority. A lot of power deals with actionable force. I can have the power as a CEO to implement something or as a manager to implement something that's going to affect the rest of the people who are under me, right? But it's my authority, okay, that is going to deal with the influence to see that thing happen. And that's the same thing is true for, in your household. That's the same thing that's true if you're in ministry. Okay, any position of leadership, there's a big difference between power and authority. So power deals with that actionable force, the ability to make something move into action, but authority has to do with the ability to influence. Okay. And the worst kind of authority is it's just implied. It's something like, kind of like imputed, something that you just have because you're in a position. People don't follow people for that reason. Okay. People aren't going to just follow you just because you have a title. Okay. You're not going to be able to influence just because they have to. People will be resentful to that. All right. You can't force anybody to do anything, right? Who are we to usurp someone's free will? But if you want to see this function well for you and well in your business, you have to understand that you can't go against what somebody doesn't want to do. And people want to follow people that they trust, people that they know have their best interests at heart and don't abuse their power or their authority. And so implied authority and implied obedience, right? Oh, because I'm in this position, you should obey me, right? You must obey me. That is the world's way of thinking. That is not Christ's system. Okay. But instead, those in authority ask, how can I serve you? That's a big difference. How can I serve you versus what can you do for me in my company? Okay, huge difference. Now, I'm not telling you that there isn't a level like changes in authority, right? Not everybody's going to have the same amount, okay? But it's the mindset behind it that we have to remember is different. So there's a story. We're not going to get into it too much today. We're going to revisit this next week, but it's Luke 7, 1 to 10, and it talks about the Roman centurion. Okay, and it talks about this issue of authority. And so, with the Roman centurion in ancient Rome, usually a century or a centurion was somebody who was in charge of about 100 people. So, this Roman soldier had about 100 people under him, and he showed a great level of concern for a servant, somebody who was considered to be at the level of a slave during this time. And he begged, like he was begging for someone to be able to come and heal his servant. So this showed a few things about this person, okay? That this person, whether they realized it or not, was functioning under the authority, right? The authority structure with the heart posture of the kingdom of God. And this was a Roman. Okay. And they understood where true authority lies. He knew that regardless of the fact that he had all these people under him, that he was powerless to be the one to heal the servant. There are some things that even if we have authority in, that we are not able to do because it depends on God to do it. But God has given us authority over all these things, right? We have to understand where our authority lies and to not abuse that authority and to use it for the purposes of furthering the kingdom. He understood that he was submitted, right? He submitted his authority to the only one true authority, which is that of Jesus Christ. And so he deeply cared for those under him, again, which reveals his heart posture. Okay, so something that I want you to ask you and for you to consider and think about, how have you received, like when there's an authority in place, how have you connected with that authority? Has there been fear in your past experiences? And how is that impacting you today? How is that impacting the way that you operate when it comes to authority? How is it impacting your parenting? How is it impacting, you as a leader in the church? Right? So I want you to think of these things. What have been your experiences with authority? Has it been mostly with the world system, or have you seen good authority as it's been under the godly system? Okay. So I want you to think of those things today. I want you to really reflect on them and then apply them to what you're seeing in your business or how you would like your model of your business to run in terms of leadership. Okay, so thank you guys. We are right on time. So I hope that this blessed you. If you know somebody who could benefit from this, tag them in the comments below. And I would love to know what you got out of this. Please go live, give me a post, just comment here on this video. And thank you for joining me. And I will see you guys next week at Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you're always checking the events tab. We have new events coming up. I have another event coming up here in February. It's called Writing to Heal. And so if you have a book in your heart and you're not sure where to start, we're going to do some writing relays. You're going to have a chance to really start drafting some chapters. It's going to be really great. So check out the events tab for that. All right. And I will let you know about new events. Thank you guys. And I will see you next week at Wednesday, 1 p.m. Bye.